The best thing I ever did for my mental health was make sure I was surrounding myself with people I felt connected with.
Start meditating.
To travel with my family.
Was to learn how my mind worked so that I could work with it. And that was through a mindfulness practice.
Suicide is the second leading cause of death for people aged 10 to 14. How do we even approach this issue? What do we need to be saying or doing for our young people? What do you do in your own work to kind of help deal with this as well?
It's always shocking. You know, when I come into work and I read the story and I say, oh my God, a 10-year-old did what? You know, and even though I'm trained in this and fellowship and board certified and expertly trained, it still shocks you, right? There's a misconception that asking someone if they're having suicidal thoughts will increase the likelihood of them completing suicide. And I need to debunk that myth right now because that's not true. Asking someone if they feel as though they want to end their life is not going to increase the likelihood of them completing suicide. As a matter of fact, the saying is that asking someone is statistically more likely to save a life than to cause a suicide. So better to ask.
One of the things that we find so often is that people are afraid to ask, like Dr. Dawn was speaking about. One is they're afraid of the answer, and two, they don't know what to say after they get the answer. And so it is about breaking the stigma and saying the words for somebody else. That's such a crucial part of it. But if you're the person that is concerned about somebody else, you want to take care of yourself, and it's scary. It is scary to think that somebody that you love or that you know may want to hurt themselves or kill themselves. There are hotlines that you can call, and 988 is one that has a wide variety of resources and ability to ask, whether it's you that's feeling it or you're asking on behalf of somebody else. There are websites from the National Suicide Networks and institutions that can help you to find resources in your area. You can talk to therapists or other mental health providers and ask them for a consult. There really are some quality articles and advice out there that can be helpful in supporting you to help destigmatize the questions and getting support for someone else.
I think that there's been a rise in suicidality in Black and Brown communities over the pandemic. And, we are least likely to ask for help in that traditional way. And so I think making it less of a stigma in our own communities to ask about it, to ask about health, mental health, is really important here as well.
There's not one size fits all for the signs and symptoms of suicide. If you're worried someone in your life is considering hurting themselves, here's exactly what to say to them and how to find the words. Are you having thoughts of suicide? Are you considering hurting yourself? I am here. I'm not going anywhere. I will help you get help. I believe you. I understand the pain that you are in. Reiterate to the person you are staying with them, and stay with them until they can get help. Knowing that somebody is there and knowing that somebody isn't going to be afraid and scared off by the intensity of your feelings and what you're thinking makes an enormous difference. Don't hesitate to act if you or someone you know is having suicidal thoughts.
Transgender adolescents and individuals are much more likely to experience suicidal ideation and suicide attempts than cisgender counterparts. Suicidal ideation is having thoughts of suicide, and those could be fleeting thoughts or persistent. We don't necessarily mean that someone has a plan or that they're imminently going to commit suicide, but it's more of just like a feeling of not wanting to be here anymore, not wanting to exist. It would be easier if I just could go away. And the medicine of transgender care, the hormones that we prescribe, is really not that complicated. I tell my students it's so much easier than treating diabetes, actually. The problem is it's not FDA approved oftentimes, that we don't have a lot of data behind it. And so a lot of providers don't feel comfortable with that. But I always go back to that increased risk of suicide, and it's up to like 45% that they are at that much of an increased risk. And so if we can prescribe hormones and help someone medically transition and decrease that risk significantly, the benefit of that is absolutely undeniable. We need to realize that not every transgender person has gender dysphoria. Not every transgender person has suicidal ideation or mental health issues. Many, transgender people are the pictures of mental and physical health, of course, just like the general population. To support young trans and non-binary people, really, again, using their names as they want to be called, correct pronouns, making sure that we're letting people know what our pronouns are as cisgender people. I think a huge one is mentoring younger folks to go into medicine and go into science and go into research, whether it be social sciences or medicine or whatever, so that we get many more transgender and gender nonconforming people who are actually doing the work.